We talked about two things. I know yesterday we talked about home loan, personal loan today. As Mr. Garcia yesterday mentioned, they're unmatched too on the two account. And home loan that are getting paid, personal 352,151. Personal loan at 326,887. Those two on the two accounts, business unit account, the total amount is 679,038. Anyway, this one here, I'm looking at both sides and both accounts. Yesterday we mentioned that we have a very strong series about under control of Office G, 16 positions, vacancy. Kojiki, under Garcia, their home loan and personal loan. There's 3 vacant accountants, so collection clerk, so loan officer. There's three positions that are vacant. Ako, Atana Gaiski. Ako, Hata the Krita advertised earlier. The Krita. Ado the Krita interview earlier. Ado Tana Tisha. Pressure priority. Ya Khaliya one need or in Zanoi. You go to your number 2 priority, personal hiring. Just call her whatever I'm talking. I mentioned that call. This in this case, I'd like to ask a payroll department based on this account. Payroll distribution budget FMIS is what we need to see if this account was being used under control of basically the position. I want to ask for this directive later behind when we're done with this, because based upon your a job ain't on this. I don't want to do auditor about your so I depend on you could all budget for that committee me clinic they've been hard on the not is caught now then not these kids. Tana ebi hayati. Akot ay bahasna. Ako yashitis. Akos chinant. Dida Tana atibitat. Ako makali chinat anish mayaja. Crowdy hatri. Hola. Khishi in that yashiti. Background echo. Ako out of ordinary. But the quacky somebody's coaching Jimmy Ellis had teams not on. Eba Hatis in the record. Edo Hot Edison not on. Kashi Kyoko is assuming or but so this case assumption. Ed over no addition not on. Bahon of Sun, deep Bahon, she thought out. Thank you very much. Quaggy been not this kitty. Position security trigo, even not kida. Thank you for giving me the floor, Chair. I don't. It's enough. I don't get OMP. Thank you. I'm go back on you.
Kashina, back to
Chair
Garcia. We spent an hour on this. Mr. Garcia, if you would respond to Delegate Yellow Hair. And Delegate Omar Begay.
Chair, I have a question too. This is Peggy.
Okay, Delegate Mr. Garcia, if you would respond to the 2 delegates.
Thank you, Chair, as well as Budget and Finance Committee. Going with Mr. Honorable Begay's, I don't know if it was a comment or the last part was a question. I was just trying to find how to exactly answer the question. Of course, with Navajo Nation, as I mentioned, this is we cannot utilize our proprietary business as an assistance program. I mean, there still has to be that point in time where you actually have to submit a credit application. You still have to be eligible. You still have to have credit worthiness. You still have to have that some sort of income to come in, because there's policies in place for that specific streamlined application process. And during the pandemic, yes, we are an essential business. we have to make sure that we're able to, like I said, and I mentioned prior with the home loan program, is that we were still here processing payments. As I mentioned earlier, we had to be here to post payments, because when you're messing with customers' money, you want to make sure that money is going somewhere. And we also have to make sure that those monies are put in place for that event. But not only that, for credit reporting, we have to make sure we have a credit agency that we report to, and we have to report to them on a monthly basis. And we have to make sure that even with my collection team, they have to actually make sure that those customers are still, if they're still collecting, if they're going to put them in delinquency, they have to report all that information to the credit agency. And that software is actually embedded into our system. So unfortunately, we had to be here during those certain times. Not only that, we had customers calling about their home loans, about delinquency, about late fees. Just as a common courtesy, as I mentioned yesterday, this morning, that we're currently touching into our profits, our revenue, because we're returning fees back to customers. And that was a common courtesy, and that was me being me as a human. Because I don't know how everybody is currently living, and I don't know what their living arrangements are. And like I mentioned, a lot of people are currently living in a multi-generational home, and every dollar does count. And that's the reason why I did reverse majority of those fees as a common courtesy. And I'm not saying $35, for a month. We're looking at in the thousands. And that's currently what we're looking at. And just as a common courtesy, I reversed those fees. Not only that, we have, during the government shutdown for the government employees that work at the hospital that are currently on 638, we set up a kind of like a plan with them that when they were going on furlough, we actually created a plan to actually help them. And we've actually had other departments that actually reached out to us to actually help give financial education. Special diabetes was actually one of those programs, and social services. We actually see all these programs that kind of just reach out to us and say, hey, you know what, can you give financial guidance? Can you go ahead and we have this customer that wants to learn how to save money before we actually give them an EBT card. How can you guys actually help them manage their money? Of course, other banks would want to go ahead and take those customers, but banks run on a retailing. They have to make money to sell money. So even just like the current dollar, a dollar is not worth anything anymore. The buck doesn't even manage, because in this day and age, everybody's trying to save that dollar. So in order for us to keep this business alive, as Honorable Crotty stated, and as I stated, I want to make this an enterprise. And going into it with CDFI, and I've been at NOFOA too, and trying to see what we can do to actually enhance my skills to go ahead and get us on that right direction to go through with being an enterprise business. And all my employees were actually here, and we've actually prepared ourselves to actually come into to work every day. And of course, there was a lot of scares. There was a lot of close calls, but we managed. We managed to actually be here and managed to actually follow up with customers. We actually, when the days that we weren't here, we've actually had customers reach out to us via email. And we were actually sending out courtesy emails to those customers. Customers had money. We actually had good communication between myself and my accountant. So that's just what we're actually taking a look at with just keeping this business afloat. Helping the Navajo people, yes, that's why we have financial education. We have the financial literacy. I have the educational background that's going to help those customers and the skills to help those customers better themselves financially. And of course, like I mentioned, I'm not going to subdue my employees to a risk of being out there trying to find a place to where we can actually do financial education. At this point in time, we're going to have to reevaluate that and revisit that that goal, because being 6 feet away from each other, a lot of people can't hear. I mean, especially when you're talking with a mask, and I'm talking with a mask right now, and I'm trying to make myself very clear, but just trying to have that point in place to where we can actually meet with people. I've actually met with customers outside. I've actually met with 3 customers outside that actually had financial education. I've actually met with an additional 7 people that had questions on how to actually do a personal and a home loan. So I've been actually talking to those customers outside and trying to keep it very clear. But I don't want to bring anything back into the building to where I'm actually subduing and subjecting myself to everybody. And at that point in time, my safety and my employees' safety, as well as the department safety and the division safety, I care about that. And I do make sure that that's going to be followed. Going in with Honorable Yellowhair's comment, and I don't know what was said, but I'm just keeping it with business here that pertains to credit services, and that's what we're presenting at this point in time. The 3 positions. Of course, we have the loan officer position that's currently vacant. This just actually came out to us, and that position, we barely, that was a grievance position. We finally paid that out, which is actually came into a vacancy as of last month. We finally cleared everything with that grievance at that point in time. The accountant position, I mentioned that yesterday in the presentation for the home loan. Our accounting tech is currently going to be honoring and actually going to be filling that position as the accountant position. So that is going to be going through with, we're actually getting the blessing, like I said, from DPM to actually do that. And we're just waiting on the background records from background department to see if those documents are still valid. All the documents were submitted right before the pandemic started and right before we actually were we had the first executive orders for closing. And like I mentioned, I'm not utilizing this pandemic as an excuse. I mean, this is the reality of things, and this is what we actually did. And this is in real time, we actually did submit that information, but I'm still waiting for background to actually submit all that information back to me. If we don't need to do that, if we have to go through with another background, so be it. We're able to do that. Taking a look at the collection clerk position, yes, that is vacant, but we're actually going to be closing that because we're at this point in time, we need a legal advisor within our department that's going to help us with the collections as well as the litigation, because at this point in time, prior credit services did have a legal advisor in this department. So in order for us to help that can actually help us internally in our department to actually help that have that communication as well as that partnership with DOJ, and that's just currently where we're standing, Chair.
Okay, with that, thank you for that response. Any other comments, committee members?
Yep, this is Yellowhair again. My next question to you is, maybe I didn't hear you yesterday. How much money do you have in your account for giving out loans, both account, home loan, and also personal loan? And then basically that Honorable Brigade I know you go by what the Wells Fargo Bank. They have a different business federal law on that one. You go by that, the policy and the rules, the law they have. But I think you use the same thing over here. Like, let's say if it's me, I'm going to Wells Fargo ask for a home loan, and then I may be denied over there. And then I'll come to your office thinking that what chance can I get from your office? Do you question these in your customers that apply over there with the other bank and the outside bank? What chance can you help overcome these? Just like Mr. Brother Brigade questions that just comparison of my concern. I'll probably think this way. I'll go to Navajo Nation personal loan. I'll get money from there. But what chance do we giving out the loan? Even now, Mr. Garcia. Thank you very much, Chair. And going back on mute now. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, committee members, we need to move on. So I think we're asking the same questions over and over again. Mr. Garcia, if you would.
Thank you, Chair. Along with Budget and Finance Committee and those that are currently listening, going with Honorable Yellowhair's comment. Yes, I do speak a lot with Wells Fargo because that's within my resume. I mean, that's what I was hired for. That's the skills that I do bring to credit services to transition this business into an enterprise, as I mentioned. The skull, a lot of people say, well, how come you guys don't hire educated people that's going to be helping the Navajo Nation government? But for me, and that's my resume. I mean, I came in and I have 19 years of financial background. And that's the reason why I came from different banks. I came from credit unions. I was in between mergers between banks. I'm actually a financial advisor too, and that's actually with the skills that I've brought in. And that's for me being taking that initiative to learn more. That's bringing the skills to credit services and taking a look at with what we were actually taking a look. That comment that you made. That goes for every customer. If a customer goes to a bank and then they come to us, it's a natural balance between the two, between the government and an actual bank. We do have to work under the scope of work of what the policy states and what was approved back in 2018 by Budget and Finance. We have to remain within our scope, but not only that, you have to be creditworthiness. Whatever shows up on your credit, we have to abide by that. We have to make sure that if there's a delinquency, if there's a repo, if there's anything that shows up under your credit score, yes, we have to. We just don't automatically decline it. We have to actually evaluate it. I take that time to actually evaluate and give the customer every chance possible. If there is a point where we can have the customer do an application with a cosigner, as I mentioned in the home loan program presentation, everything has to be balanced. If a customer doesn't qualify, they have to find a qualified applicant that's going to be a cosigner with them. And that's just something that we have to work under, is the scope of work, the operational policies that were in place. We have to make sure that we abide by that. As I mentioned, we're not going to be an assistance program to where we can just give money out to people. And as Honorable Crotty stated too, delinquency, we want to make sure everybody pays, but nobody does pay credit services. They don't, and that's the reason why I'm saying that we're not going to be an assistance program. It's hard to collect. It's not easy, and our job is not easy to talk to customers. And if everything was golden around here and everybody was able to pay their loans, of course we would actually give loans out to those people, but apparently it's not working in this environment. Chair?
Okay, with that, thank you for that response. Members, are we ready to move
Chair,
forward?
I have a question.
This is Yellowhair
Chair, I have
again.
a question.
Delegate Yellowhair, go ahead.
So, the question that I ask is, I see my question is going to be, there's three positions by SK. Mr. Garcia, do you have that authority to hire, or do you have to go to control to say, okay, you can advertise, go ahead and hire? Do you have that authority yourself, or controller coach you around to not to do it? That's my question, my friend. My last questions to you, to Garcia. Hope you understand. So I understand your position. Yes, you have this under your job description. You have to do this anyway. So that's what you want to do for the people. But give a loan, maybe a little bit better than what the bank disapproved. Maybe giving maybe a little few money you could give it then to the people who borrow money. Yeah. But we can't control how they're going to pay, because they signed the application individual. They said they're going to pay it. That's their business. It's the one that's between you and the loaners. That's between the two that they sign up. They said, honestly, they're going to pay. anyway, that's the applicant's business anyway. But thank you, so Chair. Go back on mute.
Chair, I have a question. This is Peggy.
Hold on, Peggy. Hold on. I think they would have to go to DCM for the hiring process. But we'll go back to Mr. Garcia here in a bit. Peggy, what's your question?
Okay. Excuse me. My question was to Mr. Yellowhair. You mentioned that there was a directive regarding payroll. I wasn't really quite clear on your question. Are you doing a directive? I kind of was trying to figure out what you were asking for. You mentioned that something about, let's see. I'm looking at my notes here, and I was trying to make sense of it. So, is there a directive or
Delegate Yellowhair, if you would clarify your statement to Peggy, our advisor.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you, our advisory. Thank you very much. So agenda commission India, at the tail end under control of Biggie. I'd like to make the directive in the positions at Aliyaki, vacancy that any arrange keep business unit number D and to submit a expenditure report on each business unit that should tell us is this payroll being used or not being used. We like to see. No, I'm not going to say I say we like to see be in the committee to see this a payroll distributions expenditure report. But in this instance, so the Shindita vacancy, either the order announcement, even in I want making that directive under all the controllers. Yaro program the HG in a assistant cohesion about this. He is told to be kidding with other the Chabin into the advisory. Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you to the chair.
Okay. Mr. Yellowhair, then what you're wanting is you wanted to see the how recent of a payroll report do you want to see if these vacant positions, if those positions are being used? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So on and expenditures, and that's on I thought each positions that will show that one because not just a vacant. It's going to show on all payroll expenditure report under a payroll department. These positions, the controller biggie, and not just vacant, but vacant will come out too in that report, expenditure report. It's going to be accumulated, not just recent, but it's going to be accumulated report on a payroll report advisory. Yeah. By position number. Thank you.
Were you able to get that, Peggy?
Yes, thank you.
Sheena, any other questions or comments, committee members, before we move on to the next item is the special revenue fund. I appreciate Mr. Garcia for your presentation and also your responses to all the questions and comments from the committee. And we look forward to having a meeting with you. We'll put you, as Shimon Delegate Kari stated, there needs to be a discussion between CDFI and Nomination Credits
is to essentially report within 45 days, and that's subject to the master investment policy, again, for the regular quarter meetings, and accepting the reports on the performance of the master trust defined benefit every quarter. I can take questions, comments as needed. First off, I'll go along with the increases on the contractual services, which is obviously the biggest increase in request. Those contractual services include the investment manager fees for the permanent trust fund and any consulting and attorney fees. I just want to remind that on the attorney fees, the investment committee utilizes special counsel for that as needed. It's hard to project these budgets and how much we think we'll incur. It's just on an ad hoc basis when it comes to the investment committee on, any legal matters that need to be looked into for the portfolios in terms of trusts and all the rules and laws of investing. And the consulting, that covers RVK, some of the financial reporting, and the custodial bank as well too. RVK does help advise and consult on the defined benefit as well. I'm sure the RPAC is familiar with that, and they also oversee on the master trust as a whole as well. So they're looking at the investment manager fees. We're looking at $11,775,165. So for the 20 managers that we have for the permanent trust fund. So those are all based off market values of the portfolios. So again, I know I'm always reporting on. As for the budget scorecard, we get 2s and 3s. And it's hard to, gauge the future. I have mentioned in the past that, if I'm hitting 4s on the report, on the OMB report scorecard, Wall Street will be down here asking how I'm doing it. So this is one of those situations where, the managers have to get paid for all the trusts that participate. And if we under budget, we come into uncertainty and confusion, and where's that money going to come from? So in this case, we do a conservative forecast with, we tie in the RVK report, what we expect. It's based off the sub-policies of each trust and then the expected returns on those trusts. So it's definitely a tedious and very complex forecasting calculation and process. So that's all I have to say on that. As for the personnel, the second largest increase of that 16,000, that's mainly just based on the step increases in the COLA. And we do have the 2 vacant positions of the senior office specialist and investment manager. Recently, we had the senior office specialist became open last year in June. Staff left, obviously, so that's open. However, that's still in there. And the investment manager, I know we've been reporting every year that, again, it's really hard to attract, really skilled human capital, especially within financial, portfolio management and so forth. We have inquired and we have reported to the Budget and Finance that, when we ask around people, networking, they want at minimum double what we're asked, what the salary offers here. And, with our internal policies and everything with DPM, we work with them. This is what we could do. It's definitely tough. So as of today, there is 4 people actively full-time for the investment section, and with a very big responsibility for accounting and reconciling the master trust and the defined benefit. That's all I have. I can take questions, Chair. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Wadika?
Okay, Chair. Chair, yeah, this
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to start off with this personnel. There's 2 positions vacancy in this permanent account, and one is a senior office specialist. And I go back to this position is salary says $30,756. I think this is a match money under controller's account in the last 2 digits was 22 business unit number. This one is that one is under let's see, 28,272. So this is like 28,000 plus 30 is that 58,000 or 59,000 salaries. So this is a vacancy. Yesterday, for the records, I mentioned 16 positions, and there's positions are vacant. And that was my questions. And senior office specialist vacant. Auto, there's another one, investment manager, non-vacant. That is full pay and just under permanent account, and $77,540. I want to ask Mr. Wanika. I questioned this yesterday too. How many times have these 2 have been advertised? I know senior office specialist was answering yesterday. Investment manager, the create advertise earlier. How many times? Advertise earlier. DDG. I need an answer from you. I don't know. When we go to investment committee meeting, nature, hey, we go there, I go over there, and I couldn't yet. It's such a fantastic case. The financial services fee, estimate based on market value. The investment manager fee, the 20 manager is been paid from this account, object code 6700. It's such a from this case. Since it's been paid from this account, I was going to ask Kurt control of this kidnapping something, but then since it's on the budget here, so we pay from this account $11,775,165. Oh, you pay for the a cocoa. Basically, not by you, the permanent finance, not by a T. Although market value, that means I don't know is our because so they own such case that is on this budget. My colleague either under a COVID-19 pandemic, the bar recovered not so. Not all a cocoa that and just to myself. Custodian account or just RJ or Yanton RJ to fluctuate either. The money will stay, but it's going to earn interest in custodian. I'm just thinking about this before the money goes down again. We should legislation that over this case. Legislation that should all need also custodian also people and a local hearing somewhere in Phoenix. In this case, Mr. Wanika. Thank you. Bring this budget for us permanent funds. Thank you, Chair. I'm straight all this. I'm go back on mute. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Wanika, your response.
All right, thank you, Chair. For the investment manager, I believe we ran the advertisement 3 times. And in each time, there was only, I think I recall at the most we've had applicants were 2 at one time. And, once we look into their history and their background, I don't know how much I can go into here, but some applicants weren't as truthful as they say they were. From what I'm experiencing, again, we adhere to DPM's policies and procedures for hiring. And at times, we go back to 2 weeks and then open until filled, and then it just goes back and forth on when those can be applied. And on top of that, of the two, like I said, that came, some of them it just seemed, like I said, a lot of the history didn't seem like they were truthful in their resume. So, we called their previous employers, and, they had very contrasting opinions of said individual. So, this is a very sensitive and important position. And again, like I said, we've tried to inquire with other people and see, if we can get the salary higher. But, these types of professionals, these managers, they make six figures, and to come back here is definitely a challenge. I know Chair Kirk talked about this yesterday, and that's one thing we're battling is just we compete against, higher pay and the float time for the paperwork and everything. Someone may be interested, but the process we have to follow, and by the time we get back to them, they've already accepted another offer. So just things like that. As for the senior office specialist, as I mentioned, she left at the end of the fiscal year, and I don't know how else to say this, but the investment section is very small, and yes, we have all these vacancies as here and everything, but we need room, and we need. It's hard to find space and room, and it's even harder now with the current CDC guidelines of 6 feet and social distancing. So right now we do have an office specialist, and we're all trying to help each other with the workload. So as for the senior office specialist, and the office assistant, the plan is essentially to take off one of those. That way we only have one assistant. We need more, financial investment accountants and analysts. So that's the route we're going. So that's what I have to say on that.
Okay, back to you, committee members. Any other further questions or comments?
Chair, this is Yell here again.
So go ahead.
On this, yesterday we talked about senior office specialists under control. Kurt would respond on those 16 positions that I also request for up-to-date report and how many times have been advertising. And this investment matter, how long has been vacant? Chair.
Any other questions, committee members? Any other questions, committee members? If not, back to you, Mr. Winika.
Thank you, Chair. So it's been vacant pretty much. I've been here going on 4 years, so at least 4 years. I believe the last manager that was here left in early 2016, I believe. So it's been about going on 4 years now.
Is that the next year that last manager, Britt?
Yes, the last manager, I believe his name was Michael Veniza, and I believe he departed in 2016.
Okay, back to you, Delegate Iller here.
This vacancy is too long overdue. And Mr. Nika answered that there's some problems. We would like to know what were the problems. And this is too long, and we should put on the record now. And next is we need to check with the pay under a personal office to check this position out too. Let's get get to on our knee and take care of this business. As a Budget Finance Committee, the should open benda the skida ashan nas abe betraten na skid ko e ko. These big questions to Navajo Nation Personnel Office Chair Director Sharoli. Thank you very much. Just do my job. Idea huteko. Dan becha they even snipko. To what they don't so. Can respond ishlana. Ashe kudona ashkai exams in the reviews. Ko e hutana diskis shanat ani. Though I didn't hakagi. Give all this opportunity to each one on budget presenter on Lenigi, which is Aman Saskit in Adskit. The chair also is. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Winika? Committee members? Tanaya, thank you, Brent Winika, for your presentation, and let's move forward to the next item is Judicial Public Safety Facilities Project. Who's taking care of this presentation?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Robert Willie. I'll be covering the Judicial Public Safety.
Okay, good morning, Robert. Go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, this is for Business Unit 507006, Judicial Public Safety Facilities. As you recall, that there was a bond that was issued probably about 3 years ago, I want to say. The funding in this business unit, the $5,500,000, is to pay the interest and the principal and the fees related to this bond. So that's what this budget is for. It's all sitting in special transactions, which is in 7110 is where we make the payments out of, or 7230, excuse me. And this is the amortization expense. There's 2 bond payments. One is usually in December, and then the other one is in June. We also pay the fees also in December too. So that's my presentation. Mr. Chair, thank you. And members of the Budget and Finance, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those now. Thank you.
Chair.
Yeah, committee members. Go ahead. Go ahead, Shandao. We can't hear you, Shandao. Are you either driving or somewhere? There's a lot of noise behind you.
Port. Somebody said port already. So, but it's near public safety. Mr. Robert Willie. Looking for that one now. Chair, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, committee members? And I'm not hearing any, so let's go forward.
Judicial and other.
It's under the controller. Behind the controller. The fifth
tab 4, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, tab 4. Chair, is there a citizen fund presenter as well? Or is that fixed cost? Because I see a budget in here that says citizen fund 407002 is the business unit number.
Yeah, Jeff.
Brent, is there a presentation on citizen funds?
Hi, Chair. Yes, we actually do have a budget for that. It's just not on the agenda, Chair, but yes, we do.
Okay. Maybe I'll go over that after the finance accounting scholarship. We'll make room for that too.
Yes, Chair. I'm sorry, I didn't really catch that. So you want to go over that after the financial accounting, or you want to do the Sahasi now?
No, after on the agenda, there's item 4, small IV4, which is finance accounting scholarship. After that, when we're done with that, then we'll talk about the citizen too also.
Sure thing.
Agenda.
And I think there are other funds that are listed here, Chair, like the Chapter 1982. I've seen that one. That's also part of this. So maybe we can add all those onto the agenda. I wasn't aware of these funds.
Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for those ones, you know, on our side, we do budget for the fees, and to me, I feel like all those fall under item number 3, investment fees.
That's what I was that's what I was thinking too. That's all under investment fees because there's that's the chapter land claims, and I believe the others there, they all fall under there.
Okay, that works.
Chair, I'll find that one. Official public safety facilities. $5,500,000. Chair.
And so, do we have any questions or comments regarding this item on the agenda?
Mr. Willie, Chair. This is Delegate Yellow here.
Go ahead.
Okay, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Willie, bring this judicial public safety facilities. I guess this is pertains to a object code 7110 program to make bond interest payment. Is this is for a amortization expense under a 7230 object code, I guess is what it is. So $5,500,000 are being ready to use this fund, Mr. Willie, for judicial public safety facilities. Where is this for? What location? Mr. Willie, where are you going to use on this judicial? What location is this one for? Thank you, Mr. Willie. And Chair, go back to you, Stella.
Go ahead, Mr. Willie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Honorable Yellowhair, for that question. If you recall, back in, I think, 2012, there was a loan that was secured with KeyBank for locations for the judicial public safety. I believe it was $60 million at that time. The bond came due, I believe, in 2015, but there still wasn't enough money in the judicial public safety fund to pay off that loan. So we went out and got a bond. That bond paid off that debt and is currently will be making payments until the year 2030 on this bond. I believe it was for the Chinle Crump, or I'll have to actually look at the original legislation to find out which locations these were for. But that's what this bond is for, to pay off that loan, Mr. Chair.
Chair.
Is that, should I go ahead?
Chair to Seattle Hurricane. Thank you, Mr. Willie. I remember that one. So it's best to put locations in here. I know there's location for the court facilities. I don't remember it was at Chinle and Tuba City, and don't remember it one too. If you could probably provide the information, would be better for my colleagues here being a committee members. Important. Thank you. I don't have any questions now. I just need to put locations, put it in there. That would be better for us to control everything, what's going on in history. Thank you. Mr. Willie. Thank you, Chair.
Gushina, any other questions or comments, committee members? I'm not hearing any, so we'll move on to investment fees. Brett?
Thank you, Chair. Just going straight forward, I'll start with, let's see. Well, since I have it up here on first in front, I'll start with the Sahasan, and then I'll just work my way down and back through all the trust funds with the investment fees. Going forward with the Sahasan Business Unit 407002. Again, just budgeting for the portfolio. The Sahasan is one of two very diverse portfolios. We all know that the PTF Sahasan are the two biggest ones, and those ones are the most diverse in terms of allocations and even within those allocations, managers and strategies. So we are requesting for fiscal year 21, $2,415,811, an increase of $231,274 from the year prior. That's all I have for that, Chair. Again, all these going forward are based off, the forecast and the projection of the market values for each trust. Again, I did say that this is a very, complex and tedious calculation and practice. So, and again, it's just one of those situations where the managers do have to be paid based because of the agreements and contracts that the nation has entered with them. And, it's just one of those situations where we just have to, budget for and make those funds available for the fees. If I don't have any questions on Sahasan, I'll go ahead and move forward to.
I have a question, Chair. Chair.
On Sahasan?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, here, Mr. Winika. Before the Sahasan funds, on the permanent funds, there's 11 million there's allocated there. And this one is for a investment manager fee. I guess this is the total amount for the fourth quarter is $2,000,004. So altogether, this is applied, and it's going to be like $13 million. Is this how much between Sahasan's funds and also permanent funds? These two are together, yeah, paying to money manager, investment manager fee. Mr. Winika. Back to you, Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Winika.
Yes, Chair. So yes, this is all all the trusts pay their fair share of fees to their managers. And so for the permanent trust, yes, that's correct, 11 million in investment manager fees. And for the Sahasan, we're looking at 2.4 million. And then that brings us to a combined total for the two trusts of just a little over 14 million in investment fees. This, since they're all participating in the investment program, everything is allocated, shared, weighted with all the RVK fee, the consultant fees, and the custodial bank fee, and all the manager fee for which they participate in. So yes, that covers all that. And including those two together, again, just a little over 14 million.
Okay, with that, go to the next item.
Actually, Chair Henyo, I have a question.
Okay.
This is Delegate Crotty.
Go ahead, Delegate Cotty.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Winika, for, I just have a question regarding travel expenses. In this account, I understand that last year, or maybe it's just common practice to somehow make a trip to New York regarding all of these investment bankers. I think it's time to be innovative and either have them come here to Navajo, or set up a teleconference with them. Is this the funding that is used for those to fund those travel expense? Thank you, and I'll go back on hold.
Thanks, that, Mr. Winika.
Thank you, Chair. Delegate Crotty, yes, the investment committee did conduct a meeting last week, and they did agree to have this upcoming fiscal year 2020 annual performance locally, and as last resort, essentially on teleconference.
Like, I think the question is that on the budget line item, there's a travel line item. Is that her question? Is this money being used for those meetings with the investment managers?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That any other questions or comments, committee members?
This is Delegate Crotty, Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. If I may ask, so I think this may be my fourth request on record to receive documents regarding the investment committee. I did not receive an agenda. I don't know if my other committee members, and I wasn't aware that there was resolutions, and I'm unaware of the actions of the investment committee. So Chair Henyo, I need guidance in terms of how do I get that information. I don't understand why it's been a challenge to get information regarding the investment committee. And I think I've been gracious and I've been patient, but I do need that information. Thank you.
That is Controller Kirk on the line.
Chair, this is Controller. I'm on the line.
Okay. With that, response to Delegate Crotty's request for information from the investment committee.
All right, Chair Shiaj and then Stasia, Delegate Crotty. I know this question has been asked before. I know Delegate Crotty has made that request. I did instruct Mr. Winika here to send out that information. Normally, there's two emails that get sent out, one for the investment committee, for example, your agendas, meeting notices, and so forth. And then we have another email that goes out to various parties, like the rest of CNF and or DOJ and et cetera. So Mr. Winika is checking to see if those emails
and they will get $293,400 for fiscal year 21.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Committee members?
I have another question. Just one more question.
Go ahead.
So now that I know we're BNF committee, so even I just keep all this time, we used to just think about it. But I understand that this is really, all these trust funds are restricted funds. But if you wanted today to change it, to amend it, who is the best person to talk to start from what? How do we start from that? That's my question.
Hey, do we have Ms. Kristen Lowe on the line?
Yes, Chair, I'm on the line right now.
If you would give us some guidance as far as what Elmer Gay is inquiring about, which is the funds. They're currently on restricted status, but if he wants to make an amendment to these funds, what's the process?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, for each fund, the trust funds, that is, there is, the fund is established in the Navajo Nation Code. For example, the Veterans Trust Fund is established in the Navajo Nation Code, and there is specific guidance. There's a specific way to amend the trust fund, and I cannot find my code book right this second. But the Veterans Trust Fund has something dealing with amendments that refers to having a referendum in order to amend the trust fund. And I cannot find the exact language. It's in the code. So if I can just have a couple minutes to find my code book, Chair.
Okay, once you do that, let me know, and then we'll get back to that question. So, Shanada, Delegate Elmer Begay, Krista will do a little research, and then we'll get back to you on your question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Shana. With that, moving on, Mr. Wanika, if you would continue on with your presentation.
Sure. Yes, Chair. Moving on to the Senior Citizens Trust Fund, Business Unit 713008, requesting $40,060, an increase of $10,336. Again, this is all coming from the trust itself with its interest income that it generates.
Chairman Hanyo, this is Delegate Crotty with a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. And so I'm going to be a little, again, I went through my emails trying to find any information on the investment committee. Chair, if we're not going to get the information from the staff, I would ask as you sit on the investment committee, and I believe Delegate Yellowhair, that you forward that information to the committee so that we're aware. I did want to ask, did the investment committee go over these budgets that are recommending an increase in the manager's pay? That's my question. Thank you.
Chair, this is Kristen. I have this, the code section that I was looking for.
Okay. Just kind of hold off on that for a little bit, then we'll
sure.
answer Delegate Crotty's question regarding the investment committee meetings. Our controller, Ms. Kirk, when is the next scheduled investment committee meeting?
The next scheduled meeting that we set was the annual meeting for the week of the 16th of November.
Chair, this is Controller.
Yes, go ahead.
I've been asking Brent to see if the quarterly reports do go out. He's telling me yes. So those should be going out. And then also, he did do a repository, and I think that works with you know, via email, so people have access to it, right?
Yes.
What is it called?
It's the group. So it was the Budget and Finance Committee group, and there was an email sent out, an invitation, and you accept the invitation, and you should have access to all the files.
So some time ago, when this was being brought up, I instructed Brent to send out quarterly reports, just like he does with the investment committee members. My understanding is that is happening, right? And so, and then a couple months ago, he set up a repository, and investment committee members have access to it if they utilize it. And I believe the same thing for budget and finance. So that repository gives you access to all the documents and so forth. In terms of the recent investment committee meeting, he's trying to look, but maybe there was an oversight. If there was an oversight on not sending out the most recent agenda for the most recent last week's meeting. So that's just a clarification on what we're doing on our end. But we can send out information. We normally send out the financials. We'll have to keep, the next meeting is the annual meeting, which is normally right before Thanksgiving. And so, as mentioned before, that will probably be either locally or remote, or a combination. But that's what we have to report on that.
And with that, so our next investment committee meeting is the week of November 16th, and as stated through Mr. Winika, is that it will be local if travel permits, because of the in-state 14-day quarantine for out-of-state travelers. It might become an issue with the presenters. So the next option is this Zoom or WebEx meetings with the presenters because of this whole pandemic. So mark that on your calendar, Budget and Finance Committee members. November 16th, the week of that, it'll be the annual meeting. And depending on the situation during that time with this whole pandemic, arrangements might be made to where it'd be a WebEx meeting with that committee members. Hopefully that answers your questions from Delegate Crowdy. Moving on, Brent, on your next presentation.
Thank you, Chair. I apologize. I had good intentions of setting the repository platform up. That way you can access what you need. I'm looking into why, it's not working. So I'll follow up definitely immediately after this presentation. Moving on with the Senior Citizens Trust, again, Business Unit 713008, requesting $40,060, an increase of $10,336. Again, coming from the trust income. And this is just for the portfolio. Again, I just want to reiterate that, the details in the program and information, personnel, the travel, the meetings, and so forth, you'll find those with those respective programs and their oversights. If no questions on that, I will move on to the Veterans Trust Fund.
Chair, this is Doug Gidiello here.
Go ahead, Dr. Aguila here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Wanika. This is pertaining to senior citizen trust money that allocated for $40,060. This funds that can be used anything related to senior citizen trust, senior center, like physicians, cook, or the driver. What is, Mr. Wanika? Back to you, Chair.
Mr. Wanika, if you would respond to that. Brent, are you still there?
Sorry, Chair, I was speaking on mute. So, so these trusts, again, you'll find more detail on the policy and the plan of operations for the program. And in terms, on our side, we just follow the trust allocation amounts and what the income and the investment program and the principal can or cannot be used. But generally on the trust, it just says, for the purposes of whatever the program, needs. So you'll find more information on the program level. And from what I understand, all these trust income that provide funding for the program, they all use it for, everything obviously on this budget form. So personnel, travel, whatever they need it for. That's what I have to say on that.
Okay. So we need more information. We have to go look at the plan of operation and make contact with the programs that are in, like senior citizens would be, I guess, DOTX, if I'm correct, to get more information regarding their budgets using this trust fund. Go ahead, Brent, move forward.
Okay, moving on to the Veterans Trust. Business Unit 714006, requesting $540,954, an increase of $142,964. Again, this is just for the investment fees. I know that the Veterans Program and everything, Zwarling is, on that side. I have been on some, I think it was HESI, and he does report to them. I might be wrong on the HESI committee, but I know he's been making reports, and we all know that, this one's pretty controversial in terms of funding and the program allocations. So again, here, just for us, we're just doing the fees and the trust. There was a recent amendment in 2018 on how to come up with, to get more funding for the Veterans Trust, through the Veterans Trust. And that practice, so the Veterans Trust gets 4% set-asides from the general fund revenues. And then of that 4%, half, 2% goes to the veteran's home, and the other 2% goes to the trust to be invested. But I do believe that there is a sunset clause on the housing project program, and I believe that ends this fiscal year. So if that's going to continue as, as the sunset clause of not doing the home program, and then essentially we would just revert back all the 2% set-asides all the way to the trust. So the trust will be getting 4% of the set-asides.
Okay, continue.
Moving on to Workers' Compensation Trust Fund, Business Unit 814001, requesting $45,838.
Chair.
Increase of $14,388.
Now, hold on. Vice Chair Smith, go ahead.
Got a question on Veterans Trust for Brent. Do I have the floor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Just real quick, there is a legislation that's being drafted up, and I think that's the housing, and that's why it seems to be an emergency, but it's still the Navajo Nation's money, and if that legislation doesn't make it, we can always do the 2% or even increase it as long as we keep it within the however we gear it. That's the thought on that. But my question on that is to Britt. Since the market is volatile, is it wise to continue with the housing the way it is, 2%, and then 2% back to the trust, so that when this legislation comes up, have a better understanding on that? That's my question. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I guess you know with that. I need to go back to Kristen regarding any amendments to these trust funds. And what's if you would, Kristen, go ahead.
Sure, Chair. Members of the committee. So with the trust funds, there are they're established in the code, and then as Brent referred to, there's also plans of operation, and then procedures for specifically, for example, implementing the housing program. So if you think of a hierarchy, the Navajo Nation Code is setting the tone. So, for example, if that is what you wanted to change, you could do that. And we have amended the Navajo Nation Code, Veterans Trust Fund in particular, several times over the last few years. As an example, it says any section or section herein may be amended upon the recommendation of the HES Committee and the Budget and Finance Committee, and then by a majority vote of the full membership of the Navajo Nation Council. And then there's a caveat that Section 1174, which deals with expenditure of fund principal, may only be amended as provided herein. And then if you go and look at that section, it talks about a 2/3 vote through by registered vote of all Navajo Nation voters is required to required to expend the principal. So extrapolating that information, amending Section 1174 would also require a 2/3 vote of all registered Navajo voters. That's just one example. There are other trust funds, and so it depends on the requirements for amendment for each trust fund. And then also comes with that the attendant plan of operation and procedures that may further restrict the funds. Chair, members of the committee.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And so with that, back to Vice Chair Smith's question as far as the percentage. Brett, do you have a response to that, Vice Chair Smith's question?
Sure, Chair. That's definitely a tough question. In my opinion, trust, thinking about what a trust, trust is supposed to be long-term. And it's supposed to last generations. Even with the market volatility and so forth, we want this thing to grow, and going forward, we only anticipate Navajos citizens' population to grow as well. So, just the fund balance for the veterans home is at $28.5 million. And it's just my opinion. If it were me, the full 4% set aside would go to the trust. That's just me. For growth in future generations.
So the Vice Chair Smith, is that good for you, that response?
Okay, Shenandoah. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, our Legislative Council, on the process of the Veterans Fund. Appreciate that, and that's good information to know. The trust fund is, like what Brett said. That's why I asked that question. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, this is Delegate Yeller here.
Go ahead.
Okay, Brent, yes, Chair. This is a pertain to veteran trust funds. This year, originally, budget is $397,990. Just want to know what this money has been used this year. And number two, I have issues with this. A Navajo, 2/3 votes to take out the money out from veteran fund. That's going to be very tough. I've seen this this law that was set for the veterans. I think veterans should should vote on this. It pertains to veterans. How can they use this money if Navajo can't vote on 2/3 votes? That's a big issue. Should treat the veterans. I think you're a veteran too. I think the law should be changed. This should be just meant to veterans, vote on entire veterans, 2/3 vote veterans. Just pertain to veterans. It's clear, not to share, and maybe Mr. Smith understand this. You don't want to go and see your money for this veterans until the people vote on 2/3 vote. I know what left. This is in reference to rehab money in the Navajo Hopi Land Commission. Money just there earning money. A lot of people just pass on. They didn't even use the money. This is just kind of a problem for the veterans here. They want funds. They want money. Veterans. It's just locked out right now. We need a combination to use this money. Okay. This 20 legislation that's another of veterans. So it can be, the law can be changed. So money can be available. They want to about Chair. Thank you, Mr. Wanika.
Issue with that comment? Let's move forward, Mr. Wanika.
Yes, Chair. So moving on to the Workers' Compensation Trust Fund, Business Unit 814001.
Hold on, question of privilege. Chair, he didn't answer my questions for this year, $397,990. What happened to that money? Is it being used or is it still there? Chair.
Mr. Wanika?
Yes, Chair. Yes, it's being used. Right now, I will generate a report to see where we're at as of as best as I can today. But yes, they are being used. These are paid out on a quarterly basis. And if you see on the on page 2 of 3 of each form, you can kind of generally see how much we're looking to spend out each quarter. So the managers all send their invoices, and we calculate their fair share of expense based on participation of the trust in each strategy of the investments. And then, yes, we pay them out on a quarterly basis. There is a time lag to these reports. So one of the criticisms we get is that we're only 50% budget left. And it's like, well, there is a time lag. And so for 6:30, you run a report at 6:30, but the expenses, invoices, they don't come in until the end of, a month later, almost a month later, and then it's processed. So it's pretty much a month and a half after the quarter end for that quarter to be paid out. So I just want to put that out there. There is a time lag to these, and yes, they are being spent on a quarterly basis. And I will generate a report, and I'll report back to the committee on that.
Okay, that's, go ahead, move forward.
Yes, Chair. So I just finished with the workers' comp. Again, a request of $45,838, increase of $14,388 for business unit 814001. Again, this is all coming from the portfolio itself of its income used for this money is coming from the income generated from the portfolio. And I believe that wraps it up, Chair, for the investment fees with the special revenue.
Okay, with that, committee members, any further questions regarding the investment fees?
Chair, I have a question for Peggy.
Who's this, Doug Yellow here?
Oh, yeah, it's me, Dan. I had a question for Mr.
I had three people trying to talk all at the same time. I think I heard Peggy, and then who else?
Investment advisor and management